Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the Clemson Tigers All In Show here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. I'm your host, Tiger Paul Craven. My co host, Jordan Bowman, will be joining me momentarily. Thank you guys for stopping by for another episode. Our weekly live show here every Thursday at 7 p.m. We really appreciate you guys stopping by. If you are in the live chat right now, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. Hit that like button for us. We're trying to grow this channel. We hit 4K back in December, and we are currently on the road to 5K. So help us out. Share our videos on any of the Clemson sites that you guys are on, any of the fan pages or anything like that. Help us grow this channel. Help us bring more people around. They don't have to be Clemson fans. We just like to chop up and talk about college football here in general as well. But it is a heavy focus on our Clemson Tigers because that's our main source of information here. So thank you guys for being with us. So without further ado, my buddy and co-host Jordan Bowman, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Just kind of reveling in this past week. Just for Clemson athletics in general, it's just been a really good week. Obviously, the Garrett Riley news last Thursday really took us all by surprise, and then Clemson basketball is continuing to roll. I mean, they lost a couple of nights ago, but they finally got their first ACC loss, but they beat Duke over the weekend.
Right.
Just a lot of good stuff for the program. And then you got on Saturday night, you got to watch Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars mount a tremendous comeback in the wild card against the Los Angeles Chargers. They were down 27-7 at half. They were down 27-0 just before the half. Just an incredible week for Clemson athletics, and let's hope the string of luck continues.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been a wild ride starting a week ago today, actually, right? So a week ago today, as everyone knows, the big news broke about Brandon Streeter being let go, Garrett Riley being hired. The entire Clemson fan base went from, I think for the most part, thinking, we don't quite know how to feel going into the offseason. There was kind of no transfer news. There was no shakeup in the coaching staff. It was just kind of, all right, well, I guess we're going into spring like this. And I think a lot of us were just going to have to hedge our bets and our hopes and our dreams on Cade Klubnik just improving and being the guy that, we hope he's going to be in a Clemson uniform. But, we got that bomb dropped on us last week. It's been an exciting week for Clemson. You mentioned the basketball team. They're having an amazing season. It's been a long time since something like that has happened. They got their first ACC loss, but that was bound to happen anyway. It is what it is. So still having a great season. And you speak of that Trevor Lawrence game, man. Oh, my goodness. Like, I was watching that game. I watched the whole game, actually. Surprisingly, because, I almost cut it off.
Me too.
The thing that made me watch the second half was the touchdown they put up at the end of the second quarter.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe they could just something. Maybe they could make it a game. I didn't think they would come back, but I was like, well, maybe it'd be kind of an interesting game, right? And then everybody knows the story. Trevor Lawrence throws 4 interceptions in his first playoff game, and then follows that up by 4 touchdowns and a game-winning drive to set up of course, the game-winning field goal. So epic game. Shout out to Trevor Lawrence. Shout out to Travis Etienne. Good luck to those fellas this weekend. I think they play
the Chiefs,
Kansas City. Yeah, Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, so
tough matchup.
Tough for them, but hopefully they do well. Hope all our Tigers that are still in the playoffs do well, right? T. Higgins out in Cincinnati.
DJ Reader.
Who else?
Cornell Powell and Justin Ross are on the Chiefs roster. They don't really play. I'm trying to think.
Is Jackson Carmen playing now that the
Oh
Bengals
yeah,
got
Jackson Carman is
injuries?
playing. Yeah, he did. He played some snaps in at left tackle. I mean, he had been repping guard. They finally put him at tackle, which I always felt like that's where he was most comfortable, and he actually held his own up there and gave Cincinnati some pretty valuable snaps. I saw some film, some clips on Twitter and show how physical he played, and he held his own. And I mean, we knew the guy was talented coming out of high school. From the state of Ohio, probably Clemson's highest rated. Well, before Tristan Lee, I think he was Clemson's highest rated offensive line signee in
Yeah.
in the modern recruiting era.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you
you
remember
know how
back
good he
to
is.
when he committed. I mean, that was like big news in Clemson.
Yeah,
And
you beat Ohio
now,
State head to head for him.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a pretty big deal, man. Because we're starting to recruit better offensive linemen. I think we've talked about it a few times, but we weren't recruiting really, elite at all at the position at the time that we landed him. So um,
yeah,
that was a good pickup for
big deal.
for the Tigers. But yeah, man, crazy week. Hope all is well in the life of school for you, man. Hope all's
Yeah,
going
we're,
well.
we're surviving. We're surviving. That's all I
That's
can
good.
say.
That's good, man. That's good. Uh, Shout out to the comment section out there. Thank you guys for stopping by. Like I said in the beginning of the video, please hit that like button for us. It certainly helps us out on these live videos. And if you would like to support the channel here or any of the other Voice of College Football channels, you see the banner scrolling across the screen right now. And then there's also ways in the description box below this video to support the channel and what we do here that way as well, and then also the super chat feature if you so choose. But let's give a couple shout outs to everybody here in the chat. First in, Alakazam. Thanks for stopping by. John Sarian, Steele, John. Oh, yeah, I already said John Sarian. Ben Adams, Edward. Let's see. Scott Moss. Thanks for stopping by, man. Tim's in here. And I think that's
Tim,
all we got so far. Yep, Tim. Yep, Tim's in here. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. Thanks for getting your comments in. Yeah, Scott Moss says Lawrence had the worst first half in his career and came back in the second half. Yeah. Hopefully, man, I don't honestly like – mentally, I don't know how you play as bad as he did and then just seemingly just go in the locker room and flip a switch and suddenly, start doing what he did, man. That is
I
crazy.
mean, all I'll say is it's a wonder what a real head coach can do for a young quarterback.
It's crazy, man.
That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, I thought Doug Peterson did a really good job in the second half, and give Trevor some easier looks. And honestly, when you go back and look at the tape, I've seen multiple film review guys go back and look at that tape, and it wasn't as bad of a first half as it may have looked. I think
Right.
some of the interceptions that Lawrence threw were not necessarily on him. A couple of them one or two of them where you could kind of put on Lawrence, but one of them, Asante Samuel Jr. gets away with the pass interference. The other one, Evan
Yeah.
Ingram on a little mesh play. Instead of there's a flat defender there, and he continues running towards the flat defender when he should just settle. In the middle of the field. That's kind of what the assignment is, and he kept running, and so that ended up being an interception. So just stuff like that. So statistically, it was a terrible first half, but Lawrence actually made better reads than the four interceptions would indicate. And so I think when they went to the locker room, they were like, well, it's not really an issue with our processing. We just we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to, go up tempo. Still going to run the rock, pound the ball with Travis Etienne. He had a great night, and Trevor made some pretty great throws and some really key moments, really good decisions. And Doug Peterson, did a masterful job of getting them back in that game. So it was that was a pretty incredible game to watch. And, Clemson fans aren't surprised. We know Trevor has it in him. And
yeah, man, he's that dude. I know a lot of people doubted him after last year and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that was an absolute train wreck last year. And it wasn't because of Trevor Lawrence. It was because of one Urban Meyer who can't figure out how to run an organization to save his life with all his extracurricular activities and all his just ridiculousness that went on last year. So honestly and truly, this is more of Trevor Lawrence's rookie season. Honestly, like if you really think about it, but that comes with the territory. When you're the number one pick in the draft, you're not going to go to a great situation, right? So,
nope.
It is what it is. That's why you're the number one pick. He seems to be turning it around. He said, "What do y'all?" Evan gets in. Hey man, how you doing? What do y'all think about the Jags' chances this weekend? They can't start off as bad as they did last weekend because Kansas City's going to get theirs. Patrick Mahomes is. I mean, everybody knows what he can do. So they will have to start fast. If they want to make it a game.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a much different ask because, Saturday they were playing against, the Chargers are a really talented roster, but Brandon Staley's a young head coach. It was his first playoff game. Justin Herbert in his first playoff game. And the Chargers made a lot of mistakes that, more seasoned, teams and head coaches would not make. And D. Reed is certainly that. And Patrick Mahomes, they've been in the playoffs pretty much every single year. They've won a Super Bowl. They know what it takes to get there. So they're not going to, really blow those kind of leads. You're going to have to stick with them the entire game. The defense is going to have to make some stops, some big plays as well. And Trevor's going to have to be sharp. He's got to be on, in sync with his receivers. They'd be able to run the ball. So continue to feed Travis Etienne. He's shown to be a really nice weapon. It's going to be it's a tough matchup. But I think the Jags have a chance. So I'm really excited to see that game.
Yeah. It's an NFL game, so any team really in the NFL has a chance for the most part.
Any given Sunday or Saturday in this case, which Trevor Lawrence has never lost on Saturday.
He's undefeated on a Saturday. So
of course we just used him, and now the Jags.
That'll either continue or it'll come to an abrupt halt. We'll see. Philip gets in, says, any thoughts on the idea that Jeff Scott is only on staff to take over after Garrett Riley leaves? Well, do we know for sure?
Don't have any
Jeff Scott
on that yet.
That's still a rumor, right?
Right. We don't. That hasn't been confirmed.
What I would say, Philip, if my opinion on the matter, if Jeff Scott does come and he truly is in the role that he's being rumored to be in, which is an offensive analyst and a recruiter, that's great for Clemson. But we have yet to hear if that is actually a real thing. There's a lot of rumors out there yet to be confirmed. But if that is the case, I do not think it's for taking over for Garrett Riley when he leaves.
No.
I don't think Clemson's planning for that. I mean, they just hired the guy a week ago. Is Garrett Riley going to be Clemson's offensive coordinator long-term? Probably not. He's probably a guy that has head coach aspirations. So, maybe he's here 2-3 years, maybe longer. It'd be great if he was here longer, but I don't think that would be the reason Jeff Scott's here. Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility that if Garrett Riley leaves and Jeff Scott's on staff that, he could possibly get a look for the job. But again, I don't think if Jeff Scott does come on board, I don't think that would be the reason that he's coming on board.
And personally, I wouldn't be a fan of that move. And I mean, I love Jeff Scott as a recruiter. He's one of the probably arguably the best recruiter that Clemson has had over the years. And so it's great for it to have him back if he does end up.
He can come back as the receivers coach and be a recruiter. I'm fine with that.
I've never thought of Jeff Scott. I know he was, co-offense coordinator on all that, but I've never thought of Jeff Scott as a play caller. I don't think that's really his forte. That's really his thing. I mean, I'm sure he can game plan and he's involved in the offensive, coaching decisions and all that. But bringing him to be the sole play caller if and when Garrett Riley leaves, I don't think that's the move.
And hopefully we're beyond taking big chances like that.
Yeah.
At a program like Clemson, because we don't have to, as you can clearly see. You go out and get the top assistant in the country, so we don't have to take big, gambles like trusting a first ever play caller as our OC. Some programs have to do that, but Clemson is not one of them. So, So, thanks, guys, for getting into the chat. We are almost 20 minutes into the show, and we have yet to start our show yet, Jordan.
Yeah, I know. We always get caught up. It's great, though. I mean,
I love it. Love it.
There was a lot to talk about. I don't even want to mention. I saw someone in the chat mention Garrett Riley's tweet earlier, like an hour ago.
Oh yeah, fill me in on this. I don't know what this is. I did see something. Somebody in the chat talking about it. Again, I'm not really on Twitter, so I will defer to my co-host here. I rely on all my news from Twitter from Jordan Bowman. So anything I know, I get directly from him for Twitter.
Yeah. So it was a simple tweet an hour ago. He said, "On deck, the next tiger emoji, bullseye." So it's pretty. It sounds like he's teasing somebody.
2024 recruit, or
maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't have any. I don't have any on who that might be. So
we did get that big tight end commit, right?
Yeah, Christian. You see, I forgot to mention that. That was last Friday too.
Yeah, last Friday.
Really big. I really like him. He's a big body, moves really well. He's going to be a really nice player.
Yeah, I think it's like the number 2 player in Illinois. Over 1,000-yard season. Seems like it's going to be good. We beat out Ohio State for him as well. So recruiting is off and running for 2024 already. So, and it looks to be maybe we got some more good news on the way if Garrett Riley's tweet means anything. So we'll see we'll see what comes of it. I'm sure we'll hear eventually. Anybody know if Cade has any off-season plans working with any QB gurus? I have no idea. I mean, I know these guys always work in the off-season. My guess is he would probably go back to Texas during the off-season or during the summer. I'm sure there's plenty of places to work out there, or I don't know what he'll do. So we shall see. I know he's in contact with some former big names in the NFL because he went to the same high school as them. So I know he's got connections there. So I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do.
All right. You ready to dive into these grades?
Yeah, let's dive into the show tonight. All right. So, again, thank you guys for getting to the comment section. We're going to transition into the show that we have planned for you guys tonight. I encourage you guys to get into the chat. Do your grades with us, okay? So what we're going to do tonight is we're basically going to we're going to give our grades by position for Clemson for this past year. So for the 2022 season, we're going to give our grades by position. So a season rewind, if you will. We're going to look back over the entire season, not really break down game by game, but we're going to do a season rewind where we give each position group a letter grade. Both myself and Jordan are going to give a grade. You guys can hop into the comment section and give your grades as well. And we'll see where we land, right? I don't know Jordan's grades. Jordan doesn't know my grades. So
Nope.
we're gonna find out all together how we feel about different position groups. So we're gonna start off with. I feel like we always start off with offense. So I told you in the back room we're going to start out with defense tonight. Okay, so we're going to start out with defense, and what I think we will do is we will start off with the defensive line. Okay, not probably, the most hype group for this Clemson team heading into 2022, right? You had a loaded defensive line. You had Tyler Davis, Brian Brzee, KJ Henry, Miles Murphy, Xavier Thomas. The list goes on and on of just big name people. Everybody in the media was talking about how Clemson was going to have the best defensive line in the country, and it wasn't even close. And all this talk really happened for our defensive line, right? They kind of paid an homage to the Power Rangers. Anybody that's been following the Clemson football team for very long knows that the Power Rangers go back to the Christian Wilkins, Cleveland Farrell, Dexter Lawrence days, right? Where they were the Power Rangers back then. And this year, they kind of dubbed themselves the Avengers. However, they did not deliver like the Power Rangers delivered. Okay.
No.
Although I think our defensive line played good, they definitely underachieved based off not only the talent that they had on the field, but the depth that they really had. But I do think they overall played pretty well. I came in with a B- for the defensive line. So I hit on a B-, and that's that's really. I probably could have gone lower, but I was trying to be a little generous. I came in with a B-, but I think they really did underachieve. They were not even close to being the best defensive line in the country. So, Jordan, D-line is yours.
Wow. Well, if B- for you was generous, then I guess I'm like, I don't know. I'm Santa Claus. I went with a B.
A B. Okay. Yeah.
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 I
think I could see a B. So that's full disclosure. That's where I started, and then I was like, I'm taking it down to a B-. So.
And I give them a B. And honestly, I thought about maybe giving a B+,
Okay.
just because while this defensive line did not perform to the hype and all of that, I do think they went through a ton of discontinuity, whether it was injuries, emotional, personal tragedy.
Gotcha.
They had a lot on their plate, and your best guys didn't really get to play on the field at the same time a lot of the year. It was supposed to be, you had Murphy and Brzee and Tyler Davis and KJ and XT. They were all supposed to be able to just rotate in and out and really play, and you could just plug in whoever you wanted, and that was going to be, it was going to be fine. But just so much of this year, you had multiple guys, not available during certain stretches. Obviously, XT breaks his foot before the season, and then he comes back and re-injures it again. So he's not even a factor most of the year. Brian Brzee missing time. Obviously with the loss of his sister, and he was already coming off injury rehab, an ACL tear. Uh, then he got a kidney infection later in the year. He wasn't on the field of the year, and Tyler Davis missed some stretches. I just think it was a really really trying year for the defensive line, and I thought they performed admirably. They didn't always play their best in some of the bigger games, but they gave Clemson a chance every single week. And so I think that's about as much as you can ask for. They were still a really good defensive line. They led the country in pressures. They had 46 sacks on the year, which I think is, I don't remember exactly where they placed, but they're like top 5, top 10 in sacks, and tackles for loss. So, I mean, this was a really productive defensive line. It just wasn't far. They play far away the best that maybe we thought they would, going into the year. So I'm going with a B for this defensive line. I think they are. I think they overcame a lot of adversity, and they were still probably the best part of the team throughout the course of the season. So I'll give them credit for that. And that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could totally see. Like I said, I started with a B, went to a B minus, but I do like your explanation. I like that you talked about so much of the adversity that this defensive line in particular really went through this season, and maybe that is the reason that that is probably a big part of the reason they didn't achieve at the level that they did. I mean, that's some big leadership. I think Brian Brzez's a big leader on that defensive line, and I'm sure, at no fault to his own, his head probably wasn't in football for majority of the season, right? And you mentioned some of the other injuries. I think KJ Henry. We can't stop talking about the defensive line without mentioning the amazing season that KJ Henry had as a solo defensive lineman, right? So we can say that the defensive line underachieved, but I think KJ Henry, he definitely had his best season as a Clemson Tiger.
Absolutely.
And he really held this defensive line. Now that you mentioned all that stuff that the defensive line goes through, that kind of, in my mind, that makes KJ Henry even more important to this defensive line and what he was able to do from a leadership standpoint this year and really holding them.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
If KJ didn't have the season he did, he led the team in quarterback pressures with 53. Do you want to know who the next was?
Who?
Tyler Davis with 36. So KJ had a whole 17 more pressure than 17 or more than anybody else on the team.
And the next guy was a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Which is not
which shows how good Tyler Davis is, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're hitting those numbers as a defensive tackle, like you're something serious, dude. Like it's not really an easy position to affect the quarterback consistently with, right? Because you're constantly taking double teams and stuff in there. So that shows his dominance as well. Crazy. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if we didn't have KJ Henry, when you really think about it, it could have been a lot worse, right? Shout out to KJ Henry. Hope he has a great NFL career. And hope he gets selected really high and gets that payday that he so deserves. All right, you want to move to linebackers?
Let's do it.
All right. Linebackers. I'll let you go first on the linebackers.
All right. Well, linebackers. This was an interesting position when I went back and watched some of the games. This was a position that we as Clemson were really really high on and excited for, but we weren't really sure what we were going to get. Obviously, Trenton Simpson was the known commodity there, but you had some guys, going into the season that you didn't really know. It's like, well, is Barrett Carter going to be the guy? Is Jeremiah Trotter? You still had Levante Bentley and Keith McGuire and all sort. And so you didn't really know like who was going to start where. And so there was a lot of there were a lot of questions going into the season, a lot of talent and guys to be excited about, but you weren't really sure. And I think, especially as when the defense really got their lineup and their rotation, straightened out, I think the linebackers really shine. So I'm going to go the linebackers. I'm going to go A minus.
A minus.
And
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And the only reason I'm going, and I'm dinging them a little bit because, and it's not really, completely their fault, but I felt like the Trenton Simpson moving to Will at the start of the season was not what was best for the team as far as just as far as his comfortability and the fit is concerned. And you saw Clemson struggle, the Clemson linebacker struggle at times when they were running that lineup. But I thought when they moved Barrett Carter, to Will and moved him back to Sam, I thought it was a really good decision. And you saw the linebackers really flourish and really make plays. And so Barrett Carter was amazing. Jeremiah Trotter really burst onto the scene. We weren't really sure what we were going to get from him. We knew how talented he was, but he really stepped in nicely. And I think he really grew as a leader of that defense too. I think just being more vocal and kind of being that filling in that kind of James Skalski role, but just more athletic and all of that. So I'm going A minus. I think they play really, really well. And there's a lot of guys with a bright future. I didn't even mention, Wade Woodaz emerging late in the season. I know he's kind of they played him at safety, but he let him rush the passer. He's kind of a do-it-all guy. He's really so I think Wes Goodwin I think he did a nice job with the linebackers this year. And I think there's a lot to be excited about at that position. So I'm going to go A minus. They had their moments where they didn't play quite well, but I think when everybody settled in and got comfortable, I thought they were one of the best units in the country. And Jeremiah Trotter was an All-American. Hey, not much to complain about.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I went B plus for the linebackers. Probably could have went up to an A minus, but I went B plus for the linebackers for a lot of reasons that you mentioned. They did have their low points, as did the entire defense this year. They had points where they looked really, really good. Like, man, like this is a Clemson defense right here. And then they have points where you're kind of like, what is happening right now? What is going on? And there was some injuries there, and there was some moving some positions around, like you talked about. So I think that was part of the issue. But much like I mentioned KJ Henry, I will mention Jeremiah Trotter for the linebackers, and also Barrett Carter for the linebackers. Absolutely two guys that were lights out for most of the season. In my opinion, we talked about it for a while on this show a couple times about how Barrett Carter was probably the best defensive player for a big portion of the season this year, right? So, I mean, the dude was all over the field. He was absolutely insane. I mean, he's just one of those guys that's just physically he just physically dominates in the middle of the field, and you love to see it. I think for the first year, like you said, Wes Goodwin did a great job with the linebackers. Look for some improvement next year, but we do have Jeremiah Trotter back, right? We do have Barrett Carter back. You have a guy in Wade Woodaz coming in, and he's probably going to be a hybrid guy that, I mean, they moved him around this year. You saw him in the, you saw him outside. You saw him line up on the end of the line and rush the passer. You saw him drop back into coverage and run like a safety position. You saw him do all sorts of stuff this season. So interested to see how he performs, kind of taking over for Trenton Simpson, possibly. We'll see what they do with him. I don't know. I don't know if they're just going to continue just to move him around everywhere. He's going to lock into one type of position. Kind of that we'll see. But excited to see his development into next season. Right, he can definitely use some physical development this offseason. Right, get into the weight room, put a little bit of weight on. Get a little bit stronger. I don't think Barrett Carter has that problem. I think he's physical enough. But him and Jeremiah Trotter will be just fine. And Jeremiah Trotter, I mean, it seemed like, probably 80% of the games I watched this season, it's just like he's popping up everywhere, right? He's on like almost every perimeter tackle there was. Jeremiah Trotter was right there, right? So I think there's big hope for our linebacking core. I like your grade of an A-. I think that's fair for our linebacking core. Let's see. Anybody in the chat? Scott Moss says A-. Okay. Oh, we got a super chat here.
Yep, I was about to say.
We got a super chat. My bad. All right, V1 gets in. Thank you for the super chat, man. $4.99. We really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the show. Can't wait for next year's game. Kind of scared of the young Clemson QB. I mean, you guys. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I can't wait. We need to get this Notre Dame regular season monkey off of our back. Okay. The last two times we have played Notre Dame in the regular season, we've been beaten. This past season was an absolute massacre. We got embarrassed on national television. Those of you that are wondering, you could go back and watch me and Jordan's live reaction following that game. It was not a good post-game reaction. It was a miserable one. We had a lot of stuff to say. But can't wait for the Notre Dame game. And we get to play a familiar quarterback, right? I'm assuming Sam Hartman's going to be the starting quarterback for Notre Dame next year.
Yeah.
So we get to play Sam Hartman for like the 12th season in a row. We can't get rid of the freaking guy. I'm going to say a prayer for our secondary before that game.
Notre Dame, at least right now, doesn't have Wake's receivers. There's no A.T. Perry or Jamal Banks or Donovan Green on that team right now.
This is true.
Hopefully, especially with all the guys you have coming back, I won't be in the situation where it's pass interference is our best defense.
I don't know if I could take another game like that, man. That game was rough to watch. But shout out to V1, the Notre Dame, man. Thanks for stopping by, man. Stick around. It's good to see other fan bases in here on our show. We really do appreciate it. CBO says, question, what happened to the 4- and 5-star recruit at the center position we drafted a few years ago? Recruited.
I assume he's referring to Ryan Linthicum. Nothing's happened to him. He's still on the roster.
Yeah, he's still there. I mean, I heard the coaches say good things about him. So I think he's just, progressing. Who knows?
He was the class of 2021. So it wasn't a few years ago. It was a little bit. He's been at Clemson 2 years.
Right.
And so I just, center is such a tough position. A lot of development. You have a returning starter right now in Will Putnam. And hopefully, he makes some steps forward as well. But I'm not. I think there's not a reason to be worried about that right now. I think the staff really likes Ryan Linthicum, and they're gonna bring him along, especially this season, knowing that Putnam is going to be gone. So,
and who knows we could get into the offensive line later when we do the grades, but who knows what they do? There's nothing saying that Ryan Linthicum couldn't be the guy at center this year, and they move Putnam back to guard. Putnam's a really good guard, right? So you never know what's going to happen. It depends on how it all shakes out. But yeah, I wouldn't say he's a bust. He's just,
Yeah.
it's a slow developmental position. Not everybody's going to be a Blake Miller or a Mitch Hyatt, right?
Yeah.
Who walk onto campus and start from day one. Those guys are kind of outliers when it comes to stuff like that.
All right.
All right. Let's. I guess we'll move over to cornerbacks. So if you're in the chat right now, go ahead and get your grades in for the cornerback position. So cornerback position. We talked about it a little bit with our super chat that came in from our Notre Dame fan, and we had some struggles this season, right? At times it looked super ugly. We had a lot of injuries this season. Sheridan Jones missed a ton of time this season. We were banged up a lot. So we had to grow up some young guys, right? Nate Wiggins, you go back to that Wake Forest game that we were already talking about. Nate Wiggins probably, I'm sure if you asked him, probably had the worst game of his career.
Yeah.
And probably had the worst game of his career. And he said that was the turning point for him, right? He told himself, he told the coaches, that's never going to happen again. And even the coaches talked about it from then on the rest of the season, right? In interviews, they would talk about how Nate Wiggins' approach to the game changed, the way he studied, the way he went about and took practice more seriously and took every rep more seriously, and just he changed his whole preparation right during the week. And so in some ways, that Wake Forest game was a good thing, right? And even during that game, you could see him start to mature. Like he had the game winning pass breakup, right?
Yeah.
So and then you got a young dude in Toriano Pride that got a ton of reps this season. Probably without the injuries and stuff like that, probably wouldn't have seen the field, probably wouldn't have played. But for injury purposes and depth issues, we had to bring him along quicker than we wanted to. So a lot of young guys. I like to see. I like that. We did struggle a lot this season in the secondary, and that was probably one of the weaker points of our defense this year. But at the same time, I liked a lot of the growth that we saw from our secondary throughout the year. Right now, granted, not a great game against Tennessee, and then a couple really bad games throughout the season. But overall, I think we had a few young guys get a lot of reps and grow up this season, and that's going to pay dividends going into spring in the off season. And I think we could, we could parlay that into really a much stronger secondary, a more prepared, a more seasoned, a more experienced secondary, right? So for this one, I gave the secondary a B just because I liked that we had so many young guys and we saw them grow. It was painful watching them grow, but I gave the cornerbacks a B.
I'm pretty much right with you. I went B minus, but it's pretty much. I feel pretty much the same. Just the same sentiments. This was a unit that really went through a lot. I mean, your top corner, Sheridan Jones, missed a ton of time. He's really the only one with a ton of experience in the at least among the cornerbacks.
Yeah.
And so not having him on the field, being a leader and all of that, I felt like hurt this team a lot. But you had to play some guys that you didn't really want to play as many reps as they did. But it's like you said, it's going to pay dividends next season. And I thought you saw a lot of guys grow. I think Nate Wiggins has really blossomed over the course of the season into a really nice cover corner. And I'm really excited about his potential for next season because I think he could have a really, really big year. And you saw some other guys. You mentioned Toriano Pride. He was named Clemson's Defensive Rookie of the Year or Freshman at the team awards. He really filled in nicely. He had he had to take his lumps too, but he gave Clemson some really valuable snaps over the course of the year. Jaden Lucas, he's a guy I'm
Jaden
really high
Lucas,
on.
yeah.
He's going to be. I think he's going to be special as well. And I think he got some valuable time. So it's going to be it's going to be and we didn't even mention how Malcolm Green was pretty much just he was injured pretty much all year.
He was out the whole season basically. Him
Yeah.
and Sheridan Jones were just like, that was just
Yeah.
they're gone the whole season.
So I mean that's two of your top. I mean that's your top boundary corner and then your nickel.
Yeah, and both those guys are coming back, by the way.
Yeah.
So
big deal.
Plus all those young dudes getting all that experience. I really think we have a much improved secondary, or we should have a much improved secondary coming into next season. So
yeah. So it's a so yeah, I went B minus. Was proud of the growth. They gave some, they took their lumps. It was an inexperienced group, but they held their own and really started to figure things out. So excited to see what kind of steps they make in the offseason and what they look like next year.
All right, comment section. What y'all got for cornerbacks? Let's see. Wiggum was the best player on defense. One bad game, and Clemson fans were trashing him nonstop. Yeah, he did catch some flack from that game. Some of it was warranted. Some of it was, with every fan base, people can get out of bounds. So,
yeah.
But he took it on the chin. He channeled it in the right way, and he turned it into fuel, and turned out a pretty great season for himself. John Smith says, "I hope the secondary is way stronger next year." They will be. They will be.
They should be. Yeah.
Steele Gamble gave the secondary a B+. Good stuff. Good stuff. Malcolm Green back next year. Yes, Malcolm Green is coming back next year, unless something happens in spring.
Yeah, unless he enters the transfer portal.
Unless there's depth issues and somebody jumps whoever. But for right now, Malcolm Green, yes, is said he was coming back for the 2023 season. So, again, we do have spring practice, and then the transfer portal opens up again in May?
May, yeah.
May for a week or 2 weeks, something like that?
Yeah, like a week.
Like a week in May. Okay. So, right now he's here. So, we'll see. Nobody's truly here until that closes, I guess.
Right.
So there's no guarantees in college football anymore. Your roster is never safe. Honestly, it's never safe at any point in time, regardless, because we had people in the middle of the season, they were like, "Yeah, I'm transferring. All right,
yeah,
catch up
later.
Catch y'all later." I'm like, what? But it is what it is. The age of the transfer portal. John Sarin says Murphy should have been the best player. Some games he didn't look like he was pushing 100% through.
He's arguably the most talented player on the entire defense. So
yeah, he's probably the most talented player. But look no further than Dabo Swinney called him out by name in a press conference this season. Yeah. Not something you see Dabo Swinney do very often. So I would say that's proof enough that, yeah, you're probably right. He wasn't 100% there for at least some of the games this season. All right. Safety. You wanna lead off on safeties?
Sure. This was an interesting group to grade, and the reason why is because of the one wild card, and I really didn't know how to evaluate him. Was Andrew Makuba, and he came to Clemson as a safety. He played a lot of corner this year. I'm grouping him in with the safeties because I feel like that's where he belongs, and because of that, I think the safety group is taking a ding that they probably would. If I grouped Makuba with the corners, they probably wouldn't. But I'm going to go I'm going to go with a C plus. Um, and actually, no, I'll go with a B minus because I think that's a little unfair. Because I don't think the safety play was I don't think the safety play was bad. When they were playing pure safety, I thought there was a lot of nice plays. Um, Jalen Phillips, I thought had a really nice year. He was graded as Clemson's best tackler on the entire team, according to PFF. I'm really high on RJ Mickens. I really like him as a player. But just the move from of Makuba to corner, I felt like it really didn't do you any favors. And I think a lot of the busts in the secondary, I think, was from just a lack of communication between the safeties and all of that. And I think that was kind of an issue through a lot of the year. So I think this group is really experienced and talented, but uh, they didn't always play, the best of their ability in coverage. I thought they tackled really well, but because of that, I'm going B minus. I think you got adequate safety play, but it could have been a lot better. And I think some personnel decisions held this group back a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go B minus.
I landed the same place as you. I landed as a B minus for safety. For every reason that you stated. I hope that we have seen the last of Andrew Makuba at any sort of corner position. He's much better as a safety. He had an amazing freshman season at the safety position. He needs to be put back at the safety position. That's where he will benefit this defense the most. RJ Mickens, I think he had a really good season. I think he played well. Got banged up here and there. And we had our young guy. What's his name? I'm sorry, his name's escaping me right now.
Sherrod Koval.
Sherrod Koval. He came in. I think he gave us some great snaps. Right, like I don't think he would have played without some of the injuries and stuff like that. But I think he played okay when he came in. So I think our safety have a bright future or a bright outlook when it comes to next season, much like our cornerbacks. So
you bring back experience there too.
Yeah, exactly. You bring back a lot of experience. You bring back, like we said, hopefully Makuba's back with the safeties as a sole position now. And like you said, I look for them to make a huge jump into next season. Our back end, may be a pretty strong point for this defense next season. Judging by the guys, the experience that we had on this team that was hurt all season, especially at the cornerback position, and all those young dudes that got all those reps and all that real game time experience. Now you mesh all those dudes together. I mean, I just have to think that it's going to be a recipe for a much improved secondary in 2023. You got a ton more experience and you got a ton more depth because a lot of young guys got to play. So when inevitably those injuries do come, I think Clemson will be far more equipped to deal with them in the 2023 season, whereas they weren't quite equipped to deal with them this past season, right? So didn't Woodaz play safety also? Woodaz played everywhere. Yes, he did, though. He played safety. He played linebacker. He lined up.
I group him. I group him in with the linebackers, but I think he did a really good job at safety too.
Yeah, I think he's going to be with the linebackers, but he can drop back and play some safety if he's needed. He can rush the passer off the edge. Obviously, we saw that happen. But yeah, I think he's going to be a linebacker. All right. So overall, you got a grade for our defense this year?
Well, I mean, typically, I guess you would average the grades of all the, but obviously, a letter grade is a little hard to do. So,
right,
I'm going to settle at a B for the defense.
A B, yeah.
I think just talented group. Didn't always play to the best of their ability, but gave Clemson a chance in every game. And that's about all you can ask for. B, it was a good year, good for the defense, but just not to the level that people expected.
Absolutely, man. I fully agree with you. I feel like all of our grades were within the B's, right? We either gave them like a B, B plus, B minus. I don't think we had anything in the C's. Maybe like one in the A's, A minus or something like that.
Yeah, we gave linebackers, and I gave linebackers an A minus.
Right, I gave them a B plus. So I think B is fair. The defense is a solid B. Again, they played good this season, to really good at times. They kept Clemson in a lot of games this season when the offense was struggling. So I think for that reason, you can't give them anything less than a B. Did certain positions, as we've already said, underachieve and not live up to the talent or the billing or the hype, whatever you want to call it. At times, yes, but overall, I think they played well. You mentioned it. You did a really good job of talking about kind of the adversity that the defense had this season, both with injuries and then the whole thing with Brian Brzee. That's more of just an adversity to the entire team, but especially with the defense because, that's their guy, right? That they go to war with on every down. So a lot of distractions there, a lot of injuries, but overall a pretty good season for the defense, I would say. Anybody in the chat, you got a letter grade, or you agree with our B average for the defense? Get in the chat and let us know. Ben Adams, you guys do a great job on the show. Thank you, Ben. We appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Ben. Appreciate it, man.
Really do appreciate that. We try to do as best as we can. Thank you guys. You guys make the show. Seriously. If there was nobody here watching, me and Jordan could just, be on a phone call or whatever. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for helping us grow this channel. We're just two dudes that like talking about college football and more importantly about Clemson football. And you guys come here and make the conversation better. So we do appreciate you guys. John Sarian, B minus for the defense, C plus for Wes, just because he's still learning. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I think that's good.
I think that's a fair grade. Wes has a lot to improve on, but he showed the ability to adjust this season, which was huge for me. So I guess we'll move on to the offense now. We'll move on to the offensive side of the ball. Start with the offensive line. Now, the offensive line was improved this season, but they're coming off a pretty bad season last year. First time since I don't know when that we had a returning starting center, which was pretty amazing. The highlight of the offensive line was obviously our boy J-Mac over there, holding down the left tackle position. He's going to go on and do great things in the NFL, probably as a guard, but he will do great things in the NFL. I truly believe that. He held it down there. We had a true freshman start all season at the right tackle position, and Blake Miller. We had some injuries. Walker Parks went out, right? What game did he go out?
Parks or Tate?
Tate, excuse me. Marcus Tate, excuse me.
Yeah.
Marcus Tate went out. What game did he go out? What game was that?
I think he went out in the
was that the
was it the might have been the Miami game.
Was it the Miami game?
Might have been, because I think he was out for the South Carolina game. I do remember that because Mitchell Mays was starting at left.
Yeah, it must have been the Miami game.
I think it might have been the Miami game.
That kind of showed some of our depth issues, right, on the offensive line, right? But when Marcus Tate went down, you could really see that we kind of lost some cohesion there in the interior of the offensive line, right? So they were much improved this season. I think they took a lot of steps forward. I like that we have so many people coming back. We're replacing one guy, probably the best guy on the offensive line, But it is what it is. We got to replace that guy. It's going to be interesting to see how the Clemson coaching staff decides to go about it. Will Blake Miller move over to left tackle? We talked earlier about a guy, Ryan Lithicum. Will he kind of work himself into the rotation as a center? Will they put him at guard? What is going to happen with some of the holes that Clemson's going to be filling on the offensive line? It's going to be interesting to see going into spring, into summer, and then obviously into fall camp. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces. They're going to have to continue to develop those guys behind them. We've started recruiting a lot better as far as the offensive line goes, recruiting bigger bodies, stronger guys that can really affect the defense and move the line of scrimmage, right? So I like to see that. But I think for this season, I give the offensive line a C+.
We B plus. I'm on the same, or we're on the same wavelength. The offensive line did improve a ton. I thought they were an above average unit for most of the year. I thought they, did a decent job in most of Clemson's games, especially in conference. I thought they did a good job, but you have to ding them severely for their performance in Clemson's non-conference matchups. Obviously, the Notre Dame game, South Carolina, and the Orange Bowl against Tennessee. There were just too many lapses in pass protection, and showed that this group does not really communicate well when teams are sending extra guys. And I think Thomas Austin, for a first year, coach, I think he did a good job of really improving this group in a lot of aspects. But that's something that really has to improve, because it was really poor. And just going back and watching some of that, that tape, this group does not communicate well, especially on the interior. As far as picking up pass rush, and just allowing too many free. And it was especially bad in the Orange Bowl, but it was a problem for a lot of the year. So I think this group was an above average unit, but still have a long. I might bump it up to a B- just because of the. I think Blake Miller, did a good job of getting him ready and all of that, and obviously they dealt with some injury. Jordan McFadden wasn't healthy at the end of the year, but still, this group just. They showed some really steady improvement, but it's they still have a lot to work on. So
shout out to J-Mac. Shout out
to
J-Mac for fighting through all the way to the end, though.
Yeah, because Clemson would have been in trouble if he.
Seriously, dude. Like, look how bad it was during the Tennessee game. Yeah. Now take J-Mac out of that.
Yeah.
Kate might not be here anymore. I'm just saying. He might not be here anymore.
Yeah.
We might be looking for a new quarterback. Because they might have killed Cade. In all seriousness, that pass pro has to improve, right? Our communication has to get better. It seems that, they don't pick up the pressures how they should. And part of that's on the running backs too. We'll get into them next, but there has to be some big improvements when it comes to the pass pro piece. We got to get better at that. David Wood says, "Is this the first time all OL recruits are over 300?"
I'd have to go back and look.
I don't know. Question. I do know I can answer you one thing. We are recruiting much bigger offensive linemen than we have in the past.
Yeah,
is this the first time we're all over 300? I couldn't answer that, but I do. We are recruiting a different body type of offensive linemen for sure. So, I mean, O-line, good improvements, but they got to take a few more steps forward. If we want this offense to really grow into what it can be next season. So they need to take a few more steps forward. They need to figure out how to replace J-Mac. They need to figure out how to shore up some of these depth issues. It's part of the big problem with Clemson. We've struggled for a long time when it comes to depth along the offensive line and finding, it's great to have 5 starters, right? But what happens when one of those starters go down, right? You got to have that 6, 7, 8 dude be able to roll in there. And not that there's not going to be any drop off, but it's got to be, it can't be as significant as it was when you saw a Marcus Tate go down, right? Like it was very evident once he was out, like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not very good behind him right now.
We need that dude back.
Yeah.
Like, when's he going to be healthy? Because this ain't good, right? So anytime you see something that blatant and that obvious, that's not ideal. It's not a good thing. But again, first year O-line coach, did pretty well. Already said it numerous times. Love the recruiting that he's doing. Let's just take a few more steps forward. Stay in that weight room. Stay getting stronger. Get ready to pave the way for these 2 beasts we got in the backfield. And with that, let's talk about the running backs. I'll let you go first on the running back grade. So take it away. Running backs for Clemson.
So the running backs for Clemson, they are going to get I believe that wholeheartedly this was the strength of the team, the strength of the offense. I'm going to give them an A-. And the only reason it's not an A, the only reason it's not an A is because of the fumbling. There was a fumble issue, especially in the back half of the season. Yes. Turnovers really hurt Clemson in the latter half of the year. And a lot of them were from the running back position. So that's something that has to get cleaned up. You can't afford to be coughing the ball up. And so that's what they get an A- from me. This is the strength of the offense. They're going to get that. I'm just going to tell you now, this is the highest grade of any position group on the offense. So, I think they are talented. Will Shipley was great when they used him correctly, and Phil Maffa as well. And so I think this was this is what Clemson really had to lean on for a lot of and just got to fix the fumbling issues and plus the I guess you can also, it's not really fair that you have to ding the lack of usage in key at key points in games. So because we're kind of grading them holistically on the players and the coaching and all of that. So A- should have gotten them the ball more.
Absolutely.
Stop turning the ball over.
I agree with you. I went one better. I did give the running backs an A. And it's for one of the reasons that you stated. They truly were, I believe, not only the leaders of this team, but certainly the offense. They were the go-to guys. They were the guys that if you needed something, they were always going to be there. They were the most consistent position on the offensive side of the ball by far all season long. Now, you mentioned the fumbles, and that was an issue. I mentioned a little bit of pass pro was an issue at times, right? Too. Not picking up the blitzing, letting your QB get blindsided, okay? So that all factors into it. Not all sacks are on the QB. Not all sacks are just because the QB's back there holding the ball. Sometimes it's missed assignments by both the offensive line and in conjunction with the running back. Those 5 offensive linemen and that running back, they have to be a fluid wall, right? And they really have to diagnose and read what the defense is doing. And at times that really broke down this season. So you do have to ding the running backs a little bit on that. Will Shipley got beat a few times by dudes where he just went to block them and just missed. So that's something that he can improve on in the offseason, although he's an amazing running back, right? You can't deny. So I gave our running backs an A. I hope, and judging by our new offensive coordinator Garrett Riley, the utilization of our running backs should go up by the offense that he runs. Right, it is a spread offense. It is a they do like to stretch the field. They do like to get out on the perimeter and use the skill guys. But at the same time, it's a run first offense, right? So look for those guys up front to put some work in. Look for the running backs to really get a heavy dose this coming season. We have to get Phil Maffa more involved in the offense. It just has to happen. I'm so sick of reading freaking box scores at the end of games and Phil Maffa has 7 to 10 carries. It's just unacceptable at this point. Like, look at the dude. How many times did you look up and Phil Maffa was carrying 4 and 5 defenders another 2 or 3 yards stumbling forward? Imagine giving that dude 15 carries, 20 carries, taking some of that pressure off of the quarterback and putting it on your big guys up front and your 2 stud running backs. So gave the running backs an A. That's just I think they were the only part that you could that's the only position group that any given game during the season on offense you could be like, that position we don't have to worry about. We know what we're getting, right? You couldn't say that about any other position on Clemson's offense this year. So for that reason, they get my only A for the offense or the defense for that matter, oddly enough. So we will transition into quarterbacks. And we do have to say quarterbacks plural because I guess we played 2 quarterbacks this season, right? DJ started for majority of this season. So I will take us on a bit of a journey when it comes to the quarterback position before I give my letter grade. Into last offseason, a lot of noise of, here we go. DJ, Dabo was like, DJ's the guy, DJ's the guy, DJ the guy. And for majority of the season, DJ did prove to greatly improve his game. He definitely stepped up. I mean, you go back to the Wake Forest game, we don't win that game without DJ, right?
No.
He played absolutely lights out in that game. For whatever reason, I think it's a litany of reasons, his time at Clemson came to an end. I think he played well at times. I think he played really bad at times. So I gave quarterbacks a C-. It wasn't a great season for quarterbacks. What I will say is it was not all on DJ. We just got finished talking about how much the O-line struggled this season when it came to pass pro. I just got finished telling you about how the running backs failed to pick up blitzes a lot of the times. But some of those sacks were on DJ where he held the ball far too long. But we eventually moved on to Cade. Cade had a breakout game, right? Came in against North Carolina, second series of the game, played absolutely lights out. Came in against Tennessee, struggled, looked exactly like a freshman. We looked back at Cade Klubnik in the Tennessee game. You see a guy that is still living in the high school game, still playing like he's in high school, and still making a lot of freshman mistakes. Every time that, and it wasn't even necessary pressure every time that he perceived that there was pressure, instead of stepping up in the pocket and looking for a receiver downfield or looking for a lane to take off, he would run backwards 20 and 30 yards and get himself into a lot of trouble. And I think that's a high school bad habit that he had. I said it on the postgame show. He's used to being faster than everybody. He's used to backtracking 10 or 15 yards, outrunning that defensive end, and then skirting up the sideline, for a big game. And that's a bad high school habit That's not how it works in college football. So hopefully he can work on that in the offseason. And, you know, there's some improvement that he has to do. He has got to get more comfortable in the pocket. And, yeah, that's where I landed on the quarterbacks. I'll let you give your piece on the quarterback position.
Yeah, we pretty much agree. I'm going to go D plus, and the
Okay.
only reason I didn't settle with a C minus is because I'm giving the coaching an F. Because I think the way that the quarterback situation was managed this year was pretty awful. Um, not because they named DJ the start, not because DJ was the starter or anything like that,
Yeah.
but because of the insistence that DJ was the guy, over and over and over again, and then when you decide it's time to give Cade a chance, you give him one series in the Notre Dame game, he throws a pick, and then you take him right back out, and it's this quarterback, hokey pokey that you're doing. Um, I think it could have been managed a whole lot better. And I thought the time to go to Cade should have just been the Notre Dame game, and you left it at that.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
you didn't, and it cost you your the game you want to win the most on the schedule, which in Clemson, if you lose the South Carolina game, that's an automatic. Yeah, that's an automatic F for that. So
Yeah.
I give the quarterbacks themselves, I would probably give a C minus to a C, but it drops down to a D plus because the coaching decisions and the management of that whole situation was really poor. But to talk about the players, I think DJ absolutely improved his game, especially early in the season,
Mhm.
and gave Clemson some very valuable play in some big games. I thought he played, obviously the Wake Forest game, probably the best game of his career. Considering he won this time. I mean, obviously the Notre Dame game as a freshman was really good, but probably the biggest and just the best game of his career, with the highest stakes. So I give him a ton of credit. I thought he gave Clemson really valuable minutes in the NC State game. Thought he played well, get managed, and in a lot of Clemson's early games, I thought he did a good job of providing steady play there. And I think this was just whatever happened, mentally up here. I think after the Syracuse game, it seemed like just something was different. And
Yeah.
that's just I still don't really know how to explain it, but it is what it is. And when you made the move to Cade, he played well obviously he played well in the ACC championship game. But
Mhm.
like you said, he still has some of those issues you said. And so it's really hard to blame the quarterbacks themselves. I think the coaching staff is a lot more to blame for a lot of the inconsistencies and struggles this year. So I'm giving them a D plus, but that's because we're grading this holistically on the players and the coaching. And the coaching, I think, was an F.
Yeah.
Just because of the coaching them up, the management of the play time and all of that, and who was going to start. I thought it was, I thought it was all wrong. So
Absolutely.
going B plus.
Yeah. Cade should have started earlier. We both agree on that. No issues there whatsoever. And like you say, he did look different after the Syracuse game. For whatever reason, and I honestly, I can honestly say I don't know what it is, but DJ, at least it appears to me, this is just a fan talking. It appears to me that he struggles with confidence on the football field. Now, what reason that is? Is it he's not exactly or never really has been comfortable in the Clemson scheme? Um, he doesn't trust his eyes. He doesn't. I mean, I don't know, but he definitely seems to struggle with some confidence issues on the field. Um, He says all the right stuff off the field. He seems like a great dude in the locker room. He's a great teammate. One of the big things I'll say about DJ, as much as people dunked on him this season, he never one time pouted. He never one time, said it wasn't fair. He took it all on the chin, and he went out there. And I truly do think he tried his best, but it just didn't work out at Clemson. I hope it works out for him at Oregon State. I really do. And I think he could be really good at Oregon State. I mean, we've said it, me and you have both said it, that given the right scheme, given the right system, we think DJ can be a really, really good quarterback. I never thought Clemson was, he never looked quite comfortable. He had those 2 great games where he stepped in for Trevor Lawrence, but you look at his 2 full seasons under center at Clemson, and there were good stretches early on in the season, but it kind of regressed back to what it was. So wish DJ the best. He's a great guy, great competitor, and I hope he puts up 5,000 yards next season. I don't care. It won't bother me none. I don't care if the trolls come and be like, see, Clemson don't know how to coach quarterbacks. I don't care. I hope the dude freaking parlays his last season of eligibility.
We just changed our quarterbacks coach. So,
exactly.
Hey,
clearly, we knew there was a problem. So clearly we recognize that. But I hope he, goes and passes for 1 million yards and parlays it into, a high draft pick. I really do. Hope the guy, hope the best for him. But yes, we did change our QB coach. We changed our offensive coordinator, and we are moving on.
Yeah.
Receivers. Let's move on to the receiver position. I'll let you go first on the receiver position. What's your thoughts on the Clemson receiving position this year? A little bit of an up and down thing.
Yeah, really up and down. I don't know. I kind of went back and forth on this one. I'm going to settle with a C.
Okay.
I think really the lone bright spot at wide receiver this year was Antonio Williams, and then
true freshman.
Yeah. Really, yeah, it was really two true freshmen that were really the only bright spot, and made you really excited for the future. And Antonio Williams and Cole Turner obviously really flashed. Obviously, Joseph Ngata, I think, did a good job late in the year, and especially when the quarterback change was made, I thought he looked a little bit different. But obviously, he's gone, and he didn't always. And just you have to grade him over the course of the season. You just didn't get consistent play from that position. Just not a lot of guys that can separate. Drops were still an issue at times. I think they were a little bit better at blocking this year, but you had guys like EJ Williams that you couldn't really get on the field. Adam Randall is coming off of an ACL tear, so hard to grade him on this year. Obviously, the coaching staff is really high on him. You didn't really get much out of you really didn't get much out of your outside guys, and you really only had one real option at slot. Brandon Spector didn't have a great year, so just
he hasn't looked good at all.
Yeah, no, he didn't, and this was just not a. It was an improvement over last year for sure, but it was hard to be worse than what the receivers were last season. Yeah,
that's not saying much.
But I thought the coaching wasn't really there.
Nope.
The lack of creativity. I think I still think they're misusing Antonio Williams. They really don't have him do much deep stuff. It's really just a lot of stuff out on the perimeter, and especially stuff over the middle of the field. I can't. When's the last time you saw Antonio Williams run a post or something like that? It's
a great question.
Yeah. So. He didn't really get many opportunities to make plays downfield, and I think he's a guy that can make plays downfield. He's Clemson's best separator, best route runner. If you if you can create matchups where he ends up on a safety, over the middle. I mean, I think obviously, Ben just mentioned it in the chat. Big Air, that's going to be something that's going to be different, and obviously you're going to see more of that exploitation of matchups and using the middle of the field. So, wide receivers, they improved, but they still weren't really a strength for this offense outside of a couple of guys. Happy to see the emergence of Cole Turner. Obviously, he looks like he's going to be another really nice weapon for this group next year. So excited as well.
Absolutely. So I went C plus. So I went a little step higher than you on the receiving core. Maybe it was just because the receiving core was so bad last season that they just looked that much improved this season. We did struggle with some injuries. Bo Collins went out with an injury. I think Bo Collins is a solid receiver, although he's dropped some passes as well. But honestly, like you say, our standout receivers were freshmen, right? Antonio Williams, Cole Turner, the last 4 games of the season got Clemson fans really excited. So going into spring, there's going to be a lot of talk about Cole Turner and what he can do in this Clemson offense. I'm excited to see it. I said Brandon Spector looked pretty bad all season. I don't know. Maybe it's the injuries and stuff like that. I mean, honestly, don't know. He just does not look good. I hope Adam Randall. I'm kind of excited to see Adam Randall coming in the next season. I don't think he was ever fully healthy this year. Coming off that torn ACL, he did battle his way back in. He got into some games later in the season, but never really, got his number called too many times. And I feel like he never hit a stride or anything like that. But the coaches talk glowingly of him. So hopefully he can, really get healthy this offseason and come in the next season ready to go, because he was a highly talked about guy. But it's definitely a position, although improved from last season, needs to take some big strides this offseason. Whether that be guys stepping up or, a few roster spots clearing up and we hit the transfer portal, whatever the case may be. But I think the receiver room has to change. There has to be growth there. And that's going to be on Tyler Grisham. I have not been one to criticize him too much. I do question some things because the receiver room has not been great since he's taken over. But if they look like they look this year, at the end of next season, I think there's going to be a lot more questions coming for the wide receiver coach and Tyler Grisham. So they got to take some serious steps this offseason. Those drops have to stop. We got to utilize the middle of the field. And thankfully, we got a new offensive coordinator who will utilize the offensive or the middle of the field with routes and stuff like that. And we got to stretch the field. We got to see more deep balls, more explosive plays. That's something that's been missing from Clemson's game for a while. It seems sometimes our receivers aren't fighting for the ball, right? They're kind of letting the ball come to them. And if it's there to catch, they catch it. But they're not fighting through defenders to get the ball, right? Stuff that you saw, that you came to expect from Clemson receivers in the past. So there needs to be a huge jump. Ngata's gone, so I thought maybe we'd have him back next year, but he's obviously moving on to the NFL. So we'll see what we got. We might finally see Stellato and his promised speed. We might see.
Man.
Stellato. If he could ever stay healthy, it'd be interesting to see him get on the field as well. The
guy has really, really nice speed. I mean, coming out of high school, I mean, that was what he was recruited for. And so you got to hope that maybe he kind of emerges a little bit.
Yeah,
He's a little buried on the depth chart as far as the slot guys go. I mean, you got Williams,
sure.
you've got Turner already. Will Taylor is still hanging around there. I'm interested to see what they do with him, because I feel like
Yeah,
his career is more suited, is more going towards baseball. But
yeah. I feel like
I
honestly, I feel like at a certain point, he's just going to um, he's going to talk, kind of switch solely to baseball. That's just kind of the feeling I get. I don't know,
yeah,
maybe not, but like you said, I do
and I
think
feel
he's
like
great.
Clemson's baseball coach probably prefers that too.
Yeah, yeah. There's a new coach, right? So he wasn't necessarily the guy that was on board with the whole two sport thing, right? When he came to Clemson, so we'll see. We'll see. See how that goes. All right, we're gonna move on to tight ends now. So tight ends this season, obviously, you had Davis Allen, Jake Brennestool, two big guys. Davis Allen, really physical dude, able to go up and get balls. Really a mismatch for the secondary or any linebacker that's guarding him. I think he had a really good season. He's a pretty good blocker as well, which is really good. Um, I gave tight ends a B plus. I think they played pretty good this season. The only reason I had to ding them a little bit is they were just not a part of the game plan enough to really affect the whole season, and that's of no fault of their own. We saw at certain points in this season where we were running routes across the middle and they were working. You run a seam route right up the middle. Hit a big play to Davis Allen. But it just wasn't consistent, right? There wasn't consistent play calls designed for those mismatches, excuse me, that we had with tight ends, with our two big body tight ends. I don't understand it. I hope that changes under a Garrett Riley run offense at Clemson, because although we are losing Davis Allen, we have Jake Brenningstool coming back. He's a really good pass catcher. Both of these guys are. But Davis Allen moving on to the NFL had a great season, a great leader for the Clemson Ball Club, and probably another one of those just consistent dudes all season. Right? He was always there when you need him, but just the tight end position as a whole for Clemson was super underutilized, and it's unfortunate because I think those were probably your two most solid consistent positions all season, running back and tight end, and we're saying the same things about them. They were both underutilized positions for the Clemson offense this season, and that's just a frustrating thing to watch, especially as a fan. Especially when you think about some of the struggles that Clemson had this season with, moving the ball or putting up points at certain times, and you underutilize your probably two best position groups on offense. Unfortunate.
Yeah. We have the same grade. I'm going B plus. Just yeah, they're right there. I know I gave running backs an A minus, but they're right there with the running backs.
Yeah.
Just they really versatile group, especially your top two guys. Um, especially in the pass game, and Davis Allen just has been a great blocker pretty much his entire career. Um, it, it was such a confusing year for them, just because you know when it was working, it felt like the offensive coaching staff just decided, for whatever reason, we're not going to use this consistently, and especially in the second half of the season, the tight ends just seemed to disappear from the game plan until it was late. Like the Notre Dame game, you saw Davis Allen get more targets at the end of the game when you're already down by 3 scores. And Davis Allen, I feel like just still is yeah, I think has a much better skill set than what we are, what Clemson was using him for. And I feel like he's capable of being a bigger mismatch. Um, and so I think this group is really talented. I think even with Allen gone, I think it's going to be really talented. You have some I think you have some guys that are capable still in the room, and you've got some guys coming in this freshman class that I'm really excited about. But yeah, I got to go B plus. Great group. Probably the best year for the Clemson tight ends we've seen in a while, but still underutilized and still misused at times.
I have a bad feeling that one day people are going to look back at Davis Allen's career in the NFL and be like, "Dang, Clemson had him. What were his numbers at Clemson? God, those dudes are idiots. How'd they do that with that guy?" I'm serious, man. Like, because he can block and he can pass catch. He's a good route runner. Like, man, I just underutilized. But he's a great player, and I think he'll do great things in the NFL. But just frustrating to see the underutilization of those guys over the entire season. Let's see. I could agree with the B plus grade. I mean, it's not their fault that the plays weren't there for them. Davis Allen was a big mismatch for everyone. Yes, he was. It seems like an easy decision as an offensive coordinator where you're like, I got this massive dude that can catch passes, and he's significantly bigger than anyone guarding him. I'm just going to run a route for him and see what happens. But, again, I am not a coach. I do not draw plays. I do not claim to do any of that. But, I just use the little bit of football knowledge I have and my common sense to give my opinion. And that's what we're doing. So,
as we all do.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. As we all do. So, I think that wraps it up for the offense. You got an overall grade for the offense, Jordan?
Well, yeah, the offense is going to get a C plus. Yeah, maybe a B minus, because of the running backs and tight ends. But I'm gonna settle in the middle, C plus.
Yeah, I think I'll go C plus. C plus. I think that's fair.
They weren't a bad This was not a bad offense.
No, it wasn't a bad offense. It was an inconsistent offense.
Yeah, and I think this offense was somewhat successful in spite of some of the coaching that was going on.
Yeah,
so
I don't think coaching helped this offense.
It's no. So yeah, I'm going C plus. This was not a bad offense. It was an improvement, a pretty significant improvement over last year. They were competent, and they even above average, but still not up to the talent, the talent level, and some of the coaching and personnel decisions really cost this team in a lot of their games. So yeah, it got to be C plus. Maybe you could talk me into a B minus, but yeah,
I'm gonna stick C plus. Yeah, C plus. I'll go C plus for the offense. Just didn't improve, but obviously, we aren't the only ones that feel that it was disappointing for the offense or there wasn't enough improvement. Dabo fired his offensive coordinator, so clearly he felt the exact same way. John Sarian tells us to go ahead and skip the special teams eval. We might want to stay away from that one, I guess.
You know what? I'm because just for
We
You
gotta
know,
we gotta give some
for
special
completion,
teams some love. We gotta give the
for
special teams.
completion's sake, I won't spend a lot of time on it. I'm just going to give an overall grade for the special teams. It's got it's got to be like a C minus. Uh,
Yeah,
the bright spots, BT Potter
I,
played well
I wrote
for
I
the most
wrote down
part.
C minus. If I was grading BT Potter alone, I would give him like an A minus.
A minus, yeah, and really just because of his last game was so bad.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
like I would have given him an A, but the
yeah,
last game I have to ding you a little bit on that. So
yeah,
A minus. BT Potter had a great career.
yeah.
Didn't start off great, developed into one of the best kickers that Clemson's had, and that was the bright spot. But the rest of our special teams, yeah, I'm with you. I'm like C minus at best.
Yeah.
Uh, it
Um,
was not good.
other than punting left a lot to be desired. Um, punt coverage left a lot to be desired. Uh, j- the special teams decisions, the fakes and the trick plays.
Don't ever run that on the field huddle again.
Yeah,
Don't
no,
do it. Don't do it.
I didn't. I wasn't going to mention it by name, but now you put the image in my
I
head.
had to. I had to.
Um, I will say they did a good. They blocked more. Especially early in the year, they blocked more kicks, so that was a positive. That was something that Clemson hadn't done in a while. But other than that, this was a really, really trying year for
Yeah.
teams, and it just wasn't good in your biggest games. And uh, that's you can't really give them much better than a C minus.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott Moss, you can't be consistent if you don't stick to your strengths and what you're best at. When you ran the ball well, we stopped. When the tight ends were catching the ball, catching everything, we didn't throw it to them. Yep. Yeah. We saw it many times this year where something would be working and then we would stop doing it. I don't understand it. But again, I've never called plays before, so I can't give you any perspective off, the mindset of when you're in the middle of a game calling plays. Who knows? But yeah, BT Potter though. Shout out to BT Potter, the one bright spot for our special teams this season.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it was a pretty lackluster special teams performance for majority of the season anyway. Scott Moss says, I'm glad it's over. Yeah. But nonetheless, that's kind of the season rewind for me and Jordan Bowman. I'm sure we'll continue to talk, certain aspects of the season, but that's our rundown. That's our letter grade. Offense got a C plus. Defense got a B. Special teams got a C minus. So not a bad season by any stretch of the imagination, but not not a great season. Although we did get back to the top of the ACC, we won the last ever Atlantic Division Championship. We won the ACC championship once again. So that is a huge accomplishment. And we have a lot of momentum going into the spring. We got a brand new offensive coordinator. So a lot to be excited about there. We got a defensive coordinator that's going to be going into a second season. Hopefully makes some steps forward and some improvements. We got a lot of experience coming back on the defensive side of the ball. All of our guys along the defensive line that could have left that are coming back. Tyler Davis, Xavier Thomas, Justin Maskell, Ruka Rororo. So we got Barrett Carter coming back, Jeremiah Trotter. We've talked about all the guys, Malcolm Green in the back end, Sheridan Jones. We got a ton of dudes coming back, a lot of experience, Nate Wiggins, all those guys. So defense should be better. And here's to winning the first ACC championship without divisions, right? Hopefully.
Yeah.
So we hope that happens. Did you see Garrett Riley's contract?
Yeah. What was it? 3 years,
3 years,
1.75.
1.75 million a year, $300,000 sign-on bonus.
Yeah.
So
pretty nice. Honestly, I think I mean, he's going to be one of the higher, highest paid assistants. But honestly, I feel like Clemson got a decent, nice deal.
I think that's I mean, you were going to have to pay the guy. I mean,
oh yeah,
I think he's like the 5th highest paid assistant in the country now, which I'm fine with it. I don't have an issue with it at all. Hopefully he's here for those 3 years.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
John Sarian, isn't Phillips coming back?
Yes.
Yes. Jalen Phillips is back with the Tigers. So, again, even more experience and depth coming back for the Tigers this season. So, yeah, man. It's good stuff. We already talked about the Christian, or the tight end recruit that we landed, or that
Christian
committed.
Beneker.
So,
I'm still not sure. I'm still not sure how to pronounce it.
Is it Bentancur or
is it Bentancur, or I've heard Beneker, like you don't really pronounce the second
Beneker?
name Beneker, but I've also been Bentanker. I have no idea.
I've been saying Bentancur, but that could be completely wrong. Who knows?
Yeah.
Half these kids' names, I was just like, bro, help me out here, man. Like, you guys, why can't you just have like Smith
or Bedenker? I don't. Yeah,
I don't know. Whatever. We're probably saying it all wrong, but hopefully, if he signs with the Tigers, he'll tell us how to say it correctly. But yeah, man. So let me ask you this before we get off of here. We'll give people some time in the chat to get any questions. Hey, guys, if you got any questions for us, any last-minute topics that you would like us to talk about or address tonight, something that you heard a rumor about, some article you read in the media that you want us to comment about, go ahead and comment it down in the comment section. We always take the last 10, 15 minutes of every show to kind of talk about what you guys want to talk about. Okay, so while you guys are doing that, Jordan, so coming into, take yourself all the way back to August of this past season. What did you expect from Clemson football heading into the 2022 season?
Well, going back, it feels like we've been through a ton this year. It's been a whole roller coaster.
I'm sure you didn't expect where we're at now, but
no, not quite. This isn't exactly how I saw the season. Prior to the season, I picked Clemson on a different show to go 10-2 in the regular season. Now, the losses weren't what I thought they were going to be. Exactly. Right. Well, I picked Clemson to lose. I did think Clemson was going to lose to Notre Dame. I picked them to lose to Notre Dame because just going into that season, there were so many questions on offense. You just had no idea what it was going to look like. And I thought, it would be improved, but how remains to be seen. So I picked Clemson to lose to Notre Dame, and I think what was the other loss? I think it was a road game. I think I picked them to lose at Boston College. That's what it was.
Boston College.
Yeah.
What a terrible pick.
So in reverse order, the pick said that in reverse order, but at Boston College and at Notre Dame, I thought those would be Clemson's 2 losses. I picked Notre Dame. I was like, well, that's a game Clemson can lose anyway. And in Boston College, I thought it was just it was a trap game. You're coming off the Florida State win. Just anything can happen there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Boston. I made that prediction thinking Boston College would be a lot better than they ended up being. But so honestly, the season played out the way it played out on the record, like on the record book, the way I thought it would, but not in the fashion that the record played out. It's not how I thought.
Yeah.
I thought there was potential for Clemson to. I thought Clemson was going to win the ACC again and kind of reclaim their throne.
I
thought there was room if some improvements in some key positions. I was like, maybe they do better, and they're in position to make the college football playoff. But I picked them to go 10-2, and they did go 10-2, but the losses, not what I expected. Didn't expect the kind of some of the quarterback stuff that happened this year. So just a weird year. And a really, really confusing year, especially, before the Garrett Riley season that, a lot of Clemson fans feel really conflicted about. Because it's like, man, you returned to to the top of the ACC, but, you didn't look impressive in your biggest games. And, you missed out on a college football playoff because you lost to your rival. You lost the 40-game win streak. That's what that was probably the thing that sucked the most. I was like, I wanted to hold on to that a little bit longer because last year's team, 2021 was able to do that, but it just a weird year.
Yeah, it was a weird year. I wasn't, I wanted coming into the season, I wanted DJ to work out. I wasn't exactly sure if he would improve as much as we were going to need him to. But I'm with you. I did think that Clemson would get back and win the ACC championship. I wasn't, predicting any sort of playoff or anything like that. But there's, if Clemson, has a good record and wins the ACC, you obviously know there's a chance that they could end up in the playoffs. But I didn't expect that we would be competing for a national championship this past season, and clearly we weren't. We're not anywhere ready for that quite yet. We got a lot of improvement to do there. So let's get into some of the comment section's questions here. Eric gets in and says, what are your thoughts on the 2023 offensive line depth chart? Well, we will be bringing back a starter again in the center position, right? You got Marcus Tate coming back, played really good this season, got injured. We talked about that towards the end of the season. Blake Miller, who played really well at right tackle this year. I think he'll be a solid starter next year, hopefully take a couple steps forward. He was a true freshman. You are replacing J-Mac, so there's going to be some big question marks along the offensive line. What the depth chart look like, I have no idea. Honestly, don't.
It really just comes down. Yeah, it comes down to the left tackle position, really. What they decide to do there, because obviously Tristan Lay is kind of the guy that people just are. He's next on the depth charts that Clemson releases for left tackle, but Clemson is not scared to move guys around, and they've never been reluctant to do that. So if Tristan Lay's not ready for the responsibility, it'll be interesting to see whether they move a current starter or who steps up there. Maybe Marcus Tate goes to left tackle, or maybe you move Blake Miller to right, from right tackle to left tackle. I really don't know what they're going to do there. I think the hope should be that Tristan Lay is ready to go, and the guys have consistency at their positions. Who knows? Oh, I didn't even mention Walker Parks. He's playing right guard right now, but he's played most of his career at tackle.
Yep.
So, maybe he's a candidate to move over there. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do at
He
that.
could move to maybe right tackle, and maybe you move Blake Miller to
Yeah,
left tackle. Who knows? I mean, there you could make a million combinations of where dudes might end up, but
yeah,
hopefully we got a better picture of it, coming out of spring,
yeah,
kind of what we look like along the offensive line, and
but
hopefully those dudes are starting to step up and develop and really contribute because like I mentioned, when we were talking about our O line segment tonight. We need depth. You can't just have
right.
five dudes. That's not going to work. We need depth along the offensive line. So hopefully we can
Yeah.
establish
It,
that.
and you can't really make any decisions anywhere else until you figure out left tackle. That's every.
That's
You figure out left tackle, and then everything
yeah,
else will fall. The chips will fall where they may. But you need to make sure you have a capable starter at left tackle because
yeah.
Cade has to be protected. His blind side has to be protected, and
Yeah.
you need a guy that can provide you really, quality play,
That's
right
that.
at that position. So
That's got to be your best guy out there.
yeah,
It's got to be your best guy out there. Do y'all think Clemson can finish? Terry gets in. Do y'all think Clemson can finish top 10 in offense next season?
top
Uh,
10. I think so.
yeah,
Um,
sure, right? I mean, why not? They
you're
have the talent.
yeah, you're gonna need one. You're gonna need just you're gonna need that progression from Cade. He's gonna have to.
Yes.
I mean, I do think he's this offense is made for him. I think it's a really good fit for him. So I think that there's a good chance that we'll see a massive improvement from Cade with a full off season. Um,
Yeah, I think
and you're going to need the you're going to need the offensive line and wide receivers to take a step as well. Um,
yes.
but I do think just from the sheer, the difference in play calling will lead to a massive improvement. So I do think they can finish, top 10 in offense, especially at the tempo that Garrett Riley likes to run. And I do think this offense is capable of putting up some points. So uh, with a better person, calling the shots. So yeah, top
Absolutely.
10 in offense. I think that's attainable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for sure. I think we definitely can. In fact, that's probably where we should be if things go well. We should be return somewhere within that top 10 or maybe just
I'll say
outside.
I'll say the expectations should be top should be top 25 because it is
Yeah.
hard to get into that top 10 and just
Yeah.
a
Okay.
difference here or there in yardage can move bump you up and down.
That's
But
fine.
I
Yeah.
think what Clemson was 50 something in total offense this year, so that would
Yeah.
be a
Huge
massive
improvement. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah. Let's shoot for top 25, top 20
yeah.
this season. That'd be great. It'd be a great improvement under first year OC. Yeah, I think we definitely can. We definitely can. Definitely need improvement though, but I do believe we will improve. Uh, DP says, "Good Lord, Jordan, we could have sent out our third string to BC and been fine."
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
I don't.
well
I don't think anybody expected BC to be as bad as they were
yeah, and
this season. Like they
BC had a
were
lot of
like
they had a
they
lot of injuries on the offensive line.
man,
Um
they
and
were
so
bad.
they had some pretty bad luck. That you can't really predict that. I thought they were going to be in a much better position. I knew the concern was they were replacing a lot of guys on that line anyway, but then their best player, their left guard, tears his ACL, and so they're starting just a whole makeshift line for most of the year, and some of those guys got hurt. So it was a pretty nightmare season for Jeff Halfley and co. Phil Dracovic was never comfortable. They did seem to get a little bit going when they put in the backup, whose name I'm blanking on, Riley Moorhead or Emmett Moorhead, whatever his name is. I think it's Emmett Moorhead. They did seem to improve a little bit, but that was a pretty rough season for them. So
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Let's see. Scott Moss gets in and says, ending the 40-game winning streak made me sick. Yeah, it did, man. We lost a lot of streaks in that game. And to lose it against that team in our house, that's a game that's going to take me a while to get over.
Yeah.
I'd still got,
And it's just the way you lost too. It was
yeah,
such a winnable game that
yeah,
coaching and just awful decision making cost you that game.
yeah. We handed them that game. Not that they didn't deserve to win, so don't know chicken fans come on here and come for us and be like, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know what, whatever. I've already congratulated you enough. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
We should have won that game. We were fully capable of winning that game. And coaching is the reason that we did not walk out of there with a win. Did we play well? No, but we could have definitely won that game, which makes it even more frustrating. Like if you get blown out, right, it's like, well, we got beat. But when you literally hand a game to somebody and you lose, your 40-game home winning streak and the longest active winning streak in the country, it's just like, what are we doing? Like, and then it made it worse when, the very next game, the ACC championship, Cade comes out and looks like, a great quarterback. But, it's a tough pill to swallow. It will be for a while. I won't feel better about it until we get our revenge next season in the trailer park that is Willie B. Can't wait for that game next season. We need to go ahead and remedy that quick, fast, and in a hurry. So we got a couple games I'm looking forward to this next season for revenge games. Notre Dame, South Carolina, definitely the top two there. So, yeah, I think that'll do it for us, Jordan. I don't think we got any more comments in the comments section. No more questions. What I will say, guys, is, again, thank you for joining us for another episode of the All In Show here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel with myself, Tiger Paul Craven, my boy Jordan Bowman right here on the screen with me. We love chopping it up with you guys, talking Clemson football, talking college football. We'll get into more stuff throughout the offseason, guys. But what I will ask from you guys, if you guys have any topics of discussion you would like for us to cover on our weekly show, leave it in the comment section of our video, okay? Be a comment section below the live video once it's posted after we sign off of here. You got any topics you run across throughout the week? You're like, oh, man, I'd like to see Jordan and Craven talk about that on their show next week. Go ahead and drop it in the comment section. We read the comments and we'll be sure to try to fit it in, okay? So thank you guys for stopping by. As always, you make the show even better with your presence. Jordan, go ahead and sign us off, brother.
Guys, once again, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like Tiger Paul Craven said, leave any suggestions you have for topics you want us to cover. Thank you guys once again for another great show. Got a lot to talk about, big off season, and exciting than we thought it was going to be. So there'll be plenty to cover, plenty of news. So make sure you guys stick right here because we will be here next week, Thursday,
Yes, sir.
7 p.m.
Absolutely. Do not miss it. Next Thursday, 7 p.m. Same time, same place. Come hang out with me, Tiger Paul, and Jordan Bowman. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for stopping by.
Later, guys.